deciding which video game you're gonna play. You fight with your family over which is better, Marvel or DC. The geek of all of your friends, cause you know what Batman beats Superman. This is the right place to be, so turn up the volume cause you're an altered geek. Altered geek. Get altered. Geek, geeky. Altered geek. From Star Wars to Star Trek, comics to tech. Altered geek. Get altered. Geek, geeky. Altered geek. Pull up a chair cause you're an altered geek.
Hello and welcome to Altered Geek. I'm your host, Stephen C. Phillips. And you're joining the show where pop culture and living in the modern era collide. And no topic is considered off limits, especially if it's in geekdom and it affects the family. If it's something you're interested in, then I want to know so we can talk about it and geek out together. So, as always, thank you for tuning in. And if you want to interact with the show, you can use the hashtag on Twitter, What's Geeky to You? And comment on the Facebook fan page, facebook.com/alteredgeek, or at alteredgeek on Twitter. So yeah, it's been kind of a little bit of an eventful week between the multiple podcasts I put out and some of the kind of geeky news between TV shows and some kind of interesting tech that I've seen this week. So how has your week been? How have you guys been geeking out this week? Just be sure to drop me a line on the hashtag What's Geeky to You or on the Facebook fan page. So, last episode that I put out on Wednesday, I made some commentary on the crazy fan who bought Schwanzon sauce at McDonald's. So Brad Mull says, you don't get the special sauce craziness when that type of sauce is available in a wide range of products. Interesting you bring up vegans again, because, yeah, we primarily eat vegan in my household. It's kind of a necessity more so than a pure want. Aside from kind of the way that the Bible teaches on it, and whatnot. I more so changed what I ate because I don't cook the food. And it's actually not that bad. A lot of it had to do with the fact my son cannot digest dairy, soy. We thought he had a gluten intolerance, but apparently not. He's been tested for all that. So he's back on the glutens. And yeah, so, and he also can't eat eggs now, which is just, all of it's just stinking awesome. I'm saying that sarcastically. So he says, it's something I was meant to bring up a few episodes ago in regards to the meatless burger. Yeah, I really enjoy the Beyond Burger. I still want to try the Impossible Burger. I have to go to a restaurant that actually serves it, which is about 45 minutes to an hour away from me. So it's not really going to happen anytime soon. But when it does, I will talk about it. The Beyond Burger, though, they do sell at like Kroger stores as far as they go. So, and they sell them in the meat aisle. And it has more so to do with the fact that they're not necessarily marketing it towards vegans. They're marketing it towards meat eaters because it takes about it takes a small fraction of the amount of land to produce these and water, and doesn't produce the methane gases that animals do. So all the way around, it's more equitable for them to create these over all of the product that they have to go through and all the problems they have to go through with animals. And that's why they're doing it, not necessarily marketing towards vegans. But if you are a vegan, it's a great alternative. He says, when someone says vegan, I've always thought it was someone that no longer wants to eat meat or dairy because they dislike animal treatment or something along these lines. I will preface this with saying I've seen all those documentaries. While I think it's horrible, when I'm eating, I don't necessarily care. And that's kind of wrong to say. I don't eat bacon and pork, but that's because that's what our beliefs are, and kind of it's an unclean meat from the Bible. So that is why I don't eat bacon or pork anymore. Although turkey bacon is a great alternative if you're into that. So, so he says, I've always thought that as being vegan because you don't want to consume the processing chemicals is a whole new concept to me, and that's mostly why none of us in the house eat meat, is because the chemicals and the hormones they pump into the food, which I don't want getting into my kid. Now, I mean, think about it. The amount of hormones and chemicals they pump into us, that's why I'm assuming that kids today have so many food allergies and mature at such a early age and have so many confusion and mental issues, is because they aren't developing at a natural rate. And I think that's because a lot of what they put in our food, and it's not just meat, it's anything you get, like just about anything you could get, unless you physically do the work yourself, you're going to have some kind of a chemical or byproduct or some kind of a hormone pumped into it to accelerate growth and get it to fruition quicker. So it's just meat happens to be the most problematic region at the moment. So he says, yeah, that's a whole new concept to him, because he's always had the question, if you don't want to eat bacon, why keep trying to invent other food that tastes like it? Same goes for meatless burgers or hot dogs. I will say meatless hot dogs I do not like. They don't taste really anything like a hot dog. So I still eat chicken hot dogs. I don't eat beef hot dogs or pork hot dogs. I eat chicken hot dogs, which they're like Kogel's brand. They're actually pretty good quality and taste pretty good, so I eat those. He said I would love if they had a vegan bacon that was just like regular bacon, but turkey bacon is pretty close as long as it's fresh. If it gets reheated, it's like rubber. But wanting a bacon tasting product because you don't want the hormones, etc. of real pork makes sense to me. Now I wonder how many people are vegan because of that and not animal rights. Now I will say that there's probably 3 different regions for this whole not eating meat concept and being vegan. There's the people that truthfully want to eat what's best for them, which would be like us in our situation, because we've discovered that eating the vegan lifestyle not only is biblically that way, depending on your beliefs. Some people argue that you can still eat meat. They didn't say that there was anything against it, just pork particularly and unclean meats. But we've chosen to go the rest of the route because the kids are so allergic to so many different foods and so many different things, and rather than have to pump them through medication to counteract what they're eating, it's just easier to control what's being put in the first place. And because my oldest had behavioral issues and health issues because of what he was eating, and when we eliminated those, he toned down to a normal toddler. So that's part of it. And then, you get the people that are animal rights activists. I love animals. I really do. I love them when I see them. I love cats. I love dogs. I love any kind of household pet. The ones that you have to turn into meat, I have an affinity for them to an extent, but I still eat them if I go out to eat. I still enjoy them. I wouldn't be like on the PETA board or anything because I still like to eat meat, but that's the one side. And then there's, your vegans that are doing it for a fad type of thing. So I'm more so on the boat of doing it because it's a health issue. So yeah, that's about all I got on that situation. So I would like to thank our sponsor of the show, Gamefly. GameFlyOffer.com/AlteredGeek. You can sign up today for a free 30-day trial and one game out at a time. And if you don't like just having plain old games, well, you can get other stuff too. You don't necessarily have to get just games. They have DVDs as well. So be sure to check out GameFly. And let them know that the Altered Geek sent you. I like being able to rent stuff, especially when the video stores are going by the wayside, and you can kind of, keep stuff a little bit longer, and there's a bigger range than what you could get at a video store. So I don't have any game systems currently. I do have a PC though, but I do like being able to rent DVDs and Blu-rays. So there's that. So going to take a quick break and come back after the other side with some kind of interesting tech. So some kind of interesting things that I came across this week were in the tech realm. And I always love talking tech, especially when it's something new. So you know how drones are this big thing, and that everybody's just having fun flying them, and before there was really no kind of commercial legislation on them. Well, the government's decided to hand out the first FAA waiver allowing drone flights over crowds, and that is to CNN. So it basically allows them to fly over people to cover news events and get a kind of greater use of the remote control devices for everything from insurance inspections to covering news. So yeah, it's kind of a big milestone for the unmanned aerial systems. So I'm thinking it's kind of a big thing just because it's the first not only company but media company to largely being able to have these, and you're only going to see more of it kind of go as time progresses, just because these suckers are expensive, and they're also easy to reestablish should they crash, because they're designed to they're using the Snap drone, which is a small device, has internal rotors kind of designed to break apart in the event of a crash to prevent injuries. Because Time Warner's CNN and Vantage Robotics built it, they say that they spent 2 years designing and testing this particular drone. And it's designed in the ability to crash and reduce the chance of injury to people and itself, which I think is actually kind of an interesting thing, just because they've kind of thought of everything in that regard. Plus, it only weighs about a pound, a little over. I'm not sure how I feel about them, flying around just randomly, but, news events or some kind of a thing like that where they can't get close, I can kind of see it until they start having a barrage of, the only problem I could see is you have, how you have this, usually a crowd of people covering an event. Can you imagine having, 20 drones flying overhead, shooting the same event, different angles, and they're all like, and they're all just kind of swarming in one spot like a cloud. I don't know how I feel about that particularly, but it's kind of an interesting concept to think about. And then of course, there's the new dual screen smartphones, which are coming. It's kind of strange because Apple, Samsung, and others have the actual bendable phones coming to market within the next few years. But before that, there's the dual screen ZTE Axon M, which is out. I'm not sure exactly what company this is coming out for. It does have Android on it. It's definitely an Android phone. And it features a 5.2-inch full HD screen on both its front and back. Because it folds up and you've got the front and back, so when you open it, you have like a double-sized screen. So it's basically like a phone that turns to a tablet, which kind of makes me interested because not only do you get to do that, but you can open it up partially, and it's got, you can stand it up like it's a kickstand so you can watch one screen. The only thing I'm concerned about is the fact that it could get scratched really easy by having both sides covered, which means you'd have to have some kind of a special case made for this that could withstand that. It's a bit thick, obviously, because of the dual screens. It's like having two phones stacked on top of each other rather than one. But it has one 20 megapixel camera. It's got super high resolution. It's got the Qualcomm Snapdragon 821 CPU, 4 gig of RAM, 64 gig of storage, and micro SD card expandability. I kind of wish that they had more RAM in them, but that's more so because these stupid phones, the longer they come out and the more updates they get, the more it uses all of the system memory up. But yeah, it got some help from Google to add Android-wide support for its dual screen mode, much like the Note 8 and Pixel 2 XL. You can do screen mirror, watch videos. You know, it's kind of an interesting innovation. Or you can just open it both up and have half a screen. You can double your width of your videos, or you can do multiple tasks at once, like they show on the video. It looks like it's AT&T too. It's kind of awesome. If I get a new phone, I think I know what I'm getting now. Depending on battery life, that is. So they have like Google Maps up on one side and the calendar on the other side. They have like YouTube on one screen, and they have their regular home screen with the time and stuff on the other. You can be watching a video and texting at the bottom. See, I could see this being kind of beneficial in those ways because you could be, you could be live streaming even on one screen and be texting on the other, or communicating back and forth on the other, or I just see a lot of benefits to this phone. Or you can have a website loaded up on one screen and be accessing apps on the other. I don't know. I really like this phone, and there's a button where you can activate both sides. I'm gonna have to do some more research on this because I'm really intrigued with this at this point. I think that most of the problem is going to be the glass, and if it gets scratched or messed up, and then it looks like it's going to be an AT&T exclusive, which is awesome because I'm an AT&T customer for not only my home internet but my cell phone service. But it's supposed to be available around this fall for around $600, which is about standard with about any other phone you get now if you're going to pay full price. So I wonder what the pricing of this thing, or not the pricing, the battery life is going to be. That's my main concern with this phone. Overall, I really wonder if this foldable phone is going to be kind of a new quasi trend. So I'm going to do a little bit more digging into that. I really want to know about that. I don't know how you guys feel about it. It kind of reminds me in a sense of like back in the day where everybody had the Razr phone just because they were cool, and I loved that flip phone when I had it. I honestly would not mind going back to a flip phone again and just having my current smartphone as just a tablet, just because I would not want to sit there and have to, I don't know, I'm kind of getting over this phase of having to have the latest greatest tech, and I'm liking the ability to kind of go in the realm of kind of laying back a little bit in my tech experience. And I think it's because we've had so much time that we waste of our life staring at these devices, which is why it's another reason why I'm keeping my son away from this stuff. And it seems like it seems like blasphemy in the sense that I'm this very tech-centric, geeky, pop culture-oriented person, and that I'm like keeping my son away from all of it. But I think it's because I want him to be more well-rounded, and I feel like it's taken me years to get to where I'm a normal, functional human being. And that's kind of where I see myself as almost like the Big Bang Theory kind of joke, that, really don't know what I'm doing with my life. I really don't know, blah, blah, blah. And then it's taken me years to get to this point where I'm comfortable with things. And I'm one of those people that I can talk on my podcast. I can talk with other people on my podcast. I am terrified of using the telephone. And it's more so because I'm a introspective person. I don't like talking on the phone. Like if it's a one-on-one conversation or if I have something to add, it's one thing. But if I won't just blatantly call somebody up. I would rather they contacted me and then I'm forced to talk to them at that point. Or like when I meet people in person, I am a horrible guest, at least initially. That's why it's very beneficial to have my wife around, because she's this outgoing, talkative person, and through her, I'll find my end to the conversation, and then I can promptly leave it when I'm done with what I have to say. And then the conversation still goes because she's running it. So it's kind of, it's really weird for me. I know I mentioned this periodically on the show, and that's why I don't do convention experiences very much, if at all, because I don't know how to function. I need to tag along if I'm going to go to a convention, just because I am not functional at one on my own. I am like terrified to be, because I've never gone anywhere on my own, like of a long distance. I am terrified, literally, of going to TFG and Mike's wedding, because I have to go on the airplane by myself, and then I have to take an Uber to his house by myself, and then I'm going to be good after that, and then I have to fly home after all is said and done. So, like, all the way around, I'm not going to be at ease very, very much, and it's kind of, that's just how my personality works. Anyways, I did find a little bit of information on this ZTE Axon M. The two identical 5.2-inch Gorilla Glass Generation 5 screens are 1080p FHD resolution. The battery life comes with a smarter battery management with Qualcomm Quick Charge 3.0, with a battery size of 3180 mAh, which I'm not exactly sure what that's going to warrant on the battery itself. I'm kind of in the dark a little bit there, because I don't know what we're going to end up with as far as the battery. It's just kind of hard to say. I mean, I know it's a good battery, but it's still, like, I mean, I have a pretty decent one in my Samsung Galaxy S5, and it kind of sucks. Even my replacement sucks. So it'll have a quick charge with a 3.0 USB plug, which I need to get for my phone, speaking of which. So you have the front-facing 20-megapixel camera as well. It's only going to have one camera, which is going to be in the front, so you'll have to use the other screen to see what you're doing, which is a little bit interesting. It's going to have hi-fi audio with Dolby Atmos through its speaker and headphone jack, which is kind of cool. Fingerprint power button, integrated power button and fingerprint sensor. And then I'm excited that you can put up to 256 gigabytes of memory in it, which I would basically be able to carry around Geekcast Radio in my pocket, which is awesome. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to do some serious research on this, but I think I might be getting this phone. It's kind of sick to say that. So I'm kind of wondering, as far as podcasters are concerned, Apple's been kind of showing this off since June, and there's been really no update of it since. Apple's going to let podcast creators and advertisers see what listeners actually like with their basic analytics, which are supposedly finally coming to Apple's podcast app in an upcoming refresh. I don't know how that's going to work for Apple users or for Android users with the Apple's podcast app. I hope you can find it all through the website. But it's going to provide no data on the listening, that up until now they have had no data on listening behavior, and they're supposed to have that added. I'm kind of wondering what they're going to do with this and when they're going to actually come out with it, because this is kind of a little bit irritating with it, with the way their analytics work right now, and their analytics blow. I'm finally starting to. I got my employers like all straightened out now, their iTunes stuff, and now I'm trying to get Geekcast Radios all straightened out, because I didn't know it was a thing to get them all under one account. You just you submit them and forget it. I didn't know that was a thing, and so now I'm having to go back and fix my mistakes for the provider page. So I don't know if anybody's heard about this particular problem, but Wi-Fi has been hacked. There was some encryption algorithm compromise in the WPA2, which is the world's most popular Wi-Fi encryption, and almost everyone is vulnerable to it. But most companies are starting to patch this with because the scripts to exploit devices are not in the wild, and devices have already received updates. But yeah, it's called the KRACK attack, like KRACK, which the exploit affects the Wi-Fi standard itself and allows an unauthenticated attacker to steal data from your network. It's not an easy hack, apparently, but it's one that's caused a lot of concern, because this is supposed to be the... because there's nowhere to go from WPA2, like when everybody had WEP and everybody ran away. So, yeah, they showed that this KRACK attack bypasses WPA2 against Android and Linux, which kind of sucks that, I have one of those two. So there's also another way to kind of deal with it, because a lot of places are already coming up with fixes. Apple's fixed all the flaws in their Mac OS, iOS, tvOS, and Watch OS. So many OSs. You can do like the HTTPS everywhere in Chrome and Firefox and Opera and Android. Firefox Android, I mean. It allows you to encrypt your communication with many major websites, making your browser more secure. So you encrypt the web using HTTPS everywhere. It's an add-on that you can get. So I've actually installed this just because it's just better to be safer than sorry. And if there's no encrypted version or ability to do this on a site, it'll just go back to the unencrypted site. But if there is one available, it goes to the encrypted site. So that's actually kind of cool. How many people listen to audiobooks? I know for a few years we were kind of promoting Audible, and I tried that for a little bit. And I didn't have time to listen, was most of the problem. And it's not terribly expensive either to have an account on Audible or something like that, but another thing that Amazon owns besides IMDb. But Audible customers, they download over 2 billion hours worth of audiobook programming in 2016, which is twice as much as 2014. And I'm just curious who actually listens to audiobooks as opposed to like podcasts or video shows. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I watch some YouTube, but I primarily don't watch a lot of YouTube anymore like I used to. I just don't have time for it. And apparently the Nielsen's track audiobooks as well, as they're trying to get into the podcasting realm, and they're actually going to start funny enough, they're actually going to start looking into tracking streaming services like it does broadcast TV. So like your Netflixes, your Hulus, your Amazon, although Netflix does not want to be an active participant in Nielsen's tracking and thinks that it's getting the numbers completely wrong. Netflix believes that the data that Nielsen is reporting is not accurate, not even close, and does not reflect the viewing of these shows on Netflix. So Netflix famously doesn't release its own ratings or viewings trends, and even on successful shows. So either they're just lying or they don't want anybody to know what goes on behind enemy lines. So, but Nielsen is going to be tracking Hulu's live TV service and YouTube TV in July, and or they began doing it in July, and they're going to start doing Facebook, Hulu, and YouTube viewing habits, or they did do that as well. But Netflix is very hostile to the idea, so Nielsen is tracking them independently and not as a part of this agreement. But I don't know. I don't put much thought into the whole Nielsen thing because I don't think that it accurately portrays it at all. And honestly, some of the metrics mean something, but really numbers don't mean squat, except for the fact that it's an advertiser's world, and that's kind of why. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, ads are what pay the bills, but at the same time, like I don't know how accurate the Nielsen thing is because it doesn't really encompass everything, and at the same time, like there's really no other game in town to manage it. So you can have, X amount of downloads, but it doesn't mean anything if you're not keeping the subscribers or if you don't have the subscribers. And I think that what's actually relevant are the consistent subscribers to whatever, show it is or whatever, whatever it is that they're viewing week after week after week, if you have the same metric for that same, count of people. Because if you just have somebody randomly downloading, going through your backlog, watching all the old stuff, it's overinflating the numbers and it's not an accurate portrayal necessarily. So I kind of see it as a, kind of a double-edged sword. Anyways, kind of rounding back to the audiobook thing before I got into the tangent with Nielsen. Do you think that audiobooks are the new Netflix? Do you think that people are starting to kind of pay attention to this more or less or just what? I've not personally put any attention into it, and that's not because I don't care. It's just because, again, don't have time. There's other stuff that I would rather put my time into. So I think I'm going to take another quick break right here and come back with some stuff about the top 100 villains countdown, or face-off, and some movie stuff. So we'll be back after this. For you, the listeners of Altered Geek, try lootcrate.com/alteredgeek to save 10% on any new subscription and enter promo code BRIDGE10 for 10% savings.
You're tuned in to Steve Megatron on Altered Geek.
And we're back. So, getting into the top 100 villains face-off or countdown, we've been posting on geekcastradio.com for the better part of 3 days, or 4 now at this point, matchups of 2 villains, and I did not put these together, I just did the graphics, so don't hate the messenger. So at the time of this recording, there's Norman Bates against John Doe from 7 or something. I don't know. I've seen Norman Bates in film, and I don't. particularly care for any of the villains, for the most part, that have shown up thus far, aside from Voldemort versus Darth Vader. I don't care for the rest of the ones that have shown up, so I have no opinion whatsoever. But it's fun watching everybody debate it, regardless. And it's going to be fun to record these episodes, which we're going to start doing next week. So stay tuned to the Geekcast Radio Network to see those. I'm kind of intrigued to see what goes on as well. Also stay tuned for Future Imperfect and All Things Transformers. I'll have those coming out next week. I will not have a second Altered Geek next week. I'll just have the Friday show because I'm going to be recording with the other guys for the Top 100. So just FYI there. So getting into the little bit of movie stuff that I do have, I almost don't want to touch on some of this, but I know that I probably should save people some time, and I kind of want to know about a little bit of them. Netflix, kind of getting back on that boat, wants to release 80 original films next year, which could be done. Because they've already lost like half their content since half their streaming library, because half of it's original content. And I don't know how that's going to kind of turn out for them, but that's their hope, to do 80 original. So I don't know how many people put stock in Netflix's content. I don't really watch most of it. I actually canceled it. I canceled my Netflix, and I don't feel bad about it whatsoever. So I didn't really find anything at this point worth watching. So I don't feel bad on getting rid of it. So Jared Leto, I'm so sick of this guy. He's like this the last, few years, and this year's and next year's probably, and the year after's Benedict Cumberbatch, because you notice Benedict hasn't really been hasn't been this big of a, oh my gosh, he's in everything, blah blah blah, Benedict Cumberbatch this, Benedict Cumberbatch that, he's in Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, in Star Trek Into Darkness, he's into this and that, and whatever. So Leto is the current trend. But apparently a third Tron film is not officially in the cards yet. But Jared Leto is willing to make it happen. Like, he has all the power, right? He was asked about the upcoming project, which he was first tied to back in March, and the actor said that the project is definitely a priority for him. Yeah, he'll do it if they let him, but that's one thing that's irritating, is like I would rather get a Tron universe keep going than the Blade Runner. I don't know. It's been bouncing around that the new one's going to be Tron Ascension. I mean, we got in 82 we had the original, in 2010 we had Tron Legacy. It's hard to believe it's been 7 years since the last one came out. It's hard to say if the other people would even reprise the roles at this point. So I don't want to reboot. I just want it to continue, and I wish that they would come out with them every couple of years rather than what they're doing. Because I really want to know what happened in the story. It didn't really tie. I mean, it tied stuff up, but it didn't tie stuff up. So I'm kind of wanting to know what's going to happen there. Man, it's been 2010. I remember covering that when that came out. That's insane. So the director of Drive wants to debut a free streaming service for forgotten films, where it will offer curated and restored movies from Hollywood's obscured past which I think is kind of a cool concept. It's launching in February of 2018, and they right now they have beta registration to sign up, and you can kind of be a part of that whole thought on it. So it's going to be, they're calling it an unadulterated expressway for the arts, which not sure what that's supposed to mean, but regardless, each month will feature a different restored movie, thanks in part to Harvard Film Archive, and fits into a theme that will change every quarter. When it changes, or when it launches in February, the theme will be regional renegades, exploitation gems from the southern USA, and the second will be restored and rediscovered classics of American independent cinema. So I'm kind of game to see what they do with it. I'm gonna check it out. I'm on the mailing list, so we'll see what happens on the news towards it. Unfortunately, Lego Movie 2 would be a big musical with space action. I didn't like the first movie. It's funny, this Shan Lian on Batman podcast dropped or had an interview with Chris McKay, and it looks like it was back in February, how they discussed how the Lego Movie 2 was delayed in order for because of the Lego Batman movie was coming out. So what's funny about that podcast is they actually originate from Flint, Michigan, which is literally like 15 minutes from me. So yeah, they dropped that. I don't really care for the Lego films. I used to play the video games back when they first started, like the Lego Island. I don't know if anybody remembers that. That was, and I remember my computer. I should try and find that game just to see if I can play it on my modern computer. The graphics on it were horrible, but it was a Lego themed action adventure video game developed by Mindscape, who I don't think even exists anymore. But it came out in September of or October of '97. And it was the first entry in the Lego Island series, which I didn't know there were more. It was an interesting game. I tried to play it because you were fighting against the Brickster, who would try and take apart the town, and you played as the protagonist, Pepperoni, and his caretakers were... because you could play as 5 different characters. Pepperoni and... police officers. You had police officers Laura and Nick, and you could play as Mama and Papa Briccolini. It sounds really cheesy, but it's actually not that much different if you really think about it than the Lego Movie, but just in the cheesiness alone. But the game was kind of fun. You could rebuild the helicopter, and you had to find the Brickster, and he would disassemble like the pizzeria, and you have to skip to that part and rebuild the helicopter, rebuild this. He broke out of jail and escapes, and he got the power brick, which is basically like the master builder type thing that they had in Lego Movie. So it's essentially they stole a lot of the same kind of concept from themselves. But yeah, I remember playing that game, and it was very difficult to play because graphics at the time just kind of sucked. And my computer was at the time a 486 DX4100 with 16 meg of RAM. And this game was just physically impossible for that computer to run very fast, and it was on CD. So... and then there's apparently a Detective Pikachu movie, which was dropped by this thing called #show, which is the most ridiculous name of a show in the world. Yeah. It's almost bad. I'm just going to leave that alone. I'm going to be a dick about it, so I'm just not even going to say it. And And then, of course, Jim Carrey's in a new movie, Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond, where he it's a documentary about him and Andy Kaufman and his journey to playing that. And there was a really weird character, but if anybody could pull that off, I guess it's him. So kind of going into other realms here, we have, I didn't even know this was a thing, but LeVar Burton recently was got cleared for the being sued back in August. I didn't even know he was being sued. He got sued because of his old Reading Rainbow catchphrase of, "But you don't have to take my word for it," which he used on his podcast, LeVar Burton Reads. Apparently, the PBS station WNED owns the rights to Reading Rainbow, but never did anything with the TV side, and he was allowed to do whatever he wanted with the other side. So he launched a successful Kickstarter campaign to pay for a digital revival of the classic PBS show, and his podcast widely perceived as Reading Rainbow for adults. They got nervous that the intellectual property was being stolen by Burton and his Reading Rainbow Kids company, which is now which had secured the rights to make the digital Reading Rainbow revival. It's since been changed to LeVar Burton Kids instead of that, but he's got some pretty cool stuff. I mean, he's got some, and I'm going to experiment with that a little bit because I've got kids. And they like to read, and they remember things better if they're being read to some extent, and also being shown stuff. But he also has some kind of like old Mr. Rogers type stuff. And when I say old Mr. Rogers, I mean the like where he would go with Mr. McFeely to like the plant to how they make macaroni or how they make crayons or just things like that. And so like on his page, he has how to, well, like how money is made or exploring the Grand Canyon or how trash is recycled. And it's really interesting. He's got like these little video adventures on his site. So like he has subscriptions that, it's like $5 a month for the month to month, or it's like $40 a year for an annual subscription. And he has like Worlds of Adventure where children pilot their own hot air balloon, in online games, which, a variety of curated books and video adventures. And then there's video field trips, interactive animation, storytime options, hundreds of books, digital books that you can download on like your Android or iPad or iPhone, Kindle, whatnot. A parent dashboard to kind of track the kid. So I mean, it's a really interesting thing, and I think I'm going to try this out with my kids and see how this works. Because with homeschooling, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to get him interested in doing things. So I'm going to definitely try this out with my son and see how it works, and if it works great, then kind of continue with it. So among all of that, I wanted to do a little bit of Star Wars stuff. And I know I could do this on Future Imperfect, but I've kind of relegated that straightly to Star Trek. The Star Wars spin-off movie has finally gotten a name for Han Solo's film, and it's called Solo, a Star Wars movie, or a Star Wars story. Which is lame because that was like the production title for it. Like it was kind of, I don't know, it was kind of just sad. Like they could have called it, like the Millennium Falcon or like the Kessel Run or something, a Han Solo Star Wars movie or something. I don't know. There was a lot of it's I don't know. Solo's just kind of a really weird title. I mean, you're gonna see like Jabba the Hutt, you're gonna see Chewie, and you're gonna see the Falcon, and see Lando and Han, and so it's gonna be interesting. But I don't know. I don't know. We'll see when it happens. You'll probably see a nice polished Millennium Falcon at that time. Watch it be the Ghost. Wouldn't that be hilarious? I'm predicting that right now, that it's the Ghost modified into a freighter that they use, a Corellian freighter. I'm betting it's going to be the case. And then of course we've got Luke with his villainous turn in the Last Jedi, which is kind of funny because I've never noticed it before, but he kind of aforementioned that the villain is always in the very back of the posters. And you don't see Snoke in either poster, but Luke's in the back of this one, of the recent Star Wars poster. So I'm wondering if we see some Dark Luke in this. I guess only time will tell, but I hope not. There's also speculation that we could end up with a Dark Rey, which would be kind of flip-flopping things a bit. And I forget where... that's right. I got an email from Scanner51, and he says, hello, Altered Geeks. Writing this talk about the Star Wars trailer. First off, I really liked it, and that's really about it. I think there's a lot of misdirection going on, so really speculation on it is pointless in my mind. What I really want to talk about is something Steve said on the show, as well as my best friend, that they may turn Rey evil. And he says, if they did this, I will praise them to the high heavens for thinking outside the box, but sadly, I really don't think they will. Fact is, Disney has spent millions upon millions of dollars in selling Rey. They are selling this strong female character to millions of little girls. There's a cartoon centered on the females of Star Wars now. There's a new line of toys aimed at my 4-year-old daughter. Rey is now at Disney World as a meet and greet character. To turn Rey evil would be bad for business. I would go as far as saying dumb. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope you and my friend are right. Turn her evil, shake things up, crush the dreams of little girls all over the world. Not going to happen. Disney also knows their top competitor makes billions of dollars with their superhero girls line. My kid loves the dolls in the cartoon. I think there's too much riding on her to be bad. But again, I hope they see past that and look at story. I really do. Great show. Keep up the great work. P.S. Mike was right. My wife said move all my stuff to the garage. Also had to do some work on the garage, so the stuff came down. I put it back up, but rearranged some things. This is a never-ending battle. I'll get to that part in a minute. But kind of doing the Rey thing, I think that they could make Kylo redeemable. They could make Rey go dark with Snoke. If not in this film, in the next one, but at the same time redeem herself in the next film. I see possibly her getting captured mid-level in this film, or 2/3 of the way through, getting turned dark, and then, that's it. Like, she's dark for this film. And then Kylo kind of hesitating. I don't think he's going to kill Leia, which would explain how she's supposed to be in Episode 9. Supposedly. They may kill her off screen, but I don't think she died in Episode 8. I don't. I think that Kylo hesitated, and I think he couldn't bear himself to do it. Han was one thing. He was kind of a dick, but I think that Leia will turn him back. So we'll see. But I think that that's the route they may go. I don't think they'll keep Rey evil, but I think they may turn her evil temporarily. And I don't think we'll see, like, Anakin evil. I think we'll see, like, kind of, in a sense, like Luke. Now, mind you, look at... usually when you see a Sith, and somebody that's really a Sith, or using the power of it, their eyes usually have that yellow ring to them. Or that really weird... glow to it. Anakin had it in Episode 3. And, I mean, granted, Dooku didn't really have it. Lord Sidious did, after he changed and used the Sith power. But I'm wondering, because I don't think Kylo's actually using Sith power at the moment. I think he's using Jedi power, despite his wanting to be evil. I hope that they knock him out of that emo stuff, and they just either go outright evil with him or make him good. But I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think that we may see Rey actually get the colored eyes and turn fully, and then get redeemed in the next one. So, who knows? We'll see. But the bit about the garage and moving the stuff, yeah, I had my entire office, I had my walls lined with posters, with signed photos, with toys, all the way around my office. There is not a thing on the wall, because about a third of the office is my wife's for her sewing stuff, and about a third of it's mine, and the other third is like storage or the cats. So it's some of it I got rid of a lot of the stuff, and then some of it I kind of am. I'm a little sad that some of it's not on the wall, and when I say sad, I mean like a few of the things, but same time, like, I don't know, I like the clean grayish wall that's in front of me now at this point. I just kind of wish I had a green screen behind me so that I could actually do video stuff and not have it look like garbage. But yeah, that about rounds that out. And then I think I'm going to do a little bit of tech history here. We had IMDb launched in October 17th, 1990 by Colin Needham, an English movie fan. He launches the Rec Arts Movies movie database, which would later be known as IMDb. He was an engineer working for HP at the time. He quit his job to work on IMDb full-time, and it's one of the most visited sites on the internet, and was bought by Amazon in 1998, which I didn't realize Amazon's owned it as long as I've used it. But I guess he's still the general manager of IMDb to this day, which is kind of awesome. So that's kind of interesting. And then October 18th, 1985, the NES hits America. And in October 18th, 1958, the world's first video game came to America. It was a tennis simulator game called Tennis for Two. That's just sad. So I think that about rounds it out for this episode. I wanted to talk a little bit of superheroes, but I think this might force me, I'm not entirely sure, but it might force me to do a Legends of the Brave and the Bold next week, and do some superhero news, so I can kind of purge my my palette there of the various things. Because I have some theories and some thoughts on the crossover and some of the stuff that's happened so far. Especially I think the only thing I'll bring up on this show is the Oliver Queen name-dropping Bruce Wayne in the new Arrow clip, because he was seen with a photo by the press as the Green Arrow with no hood. So, which looked like it was from season 3 or 4 when he fought Raish on the bridge. So he says, I'm mayor by day, hero by night. He says, you don't see Bruce Wayne's head, stamped on a hero's body. He says, I don't think he's left Gotham lately, has he? And just kind of leaves it there and saying that he's not the Green Arrow. And I thought that was kind of a brilliant name drop. Although people are like, oh, it just cements that the Dark Knight is in this universe. Well, kind of was before this. And that was in The Flash when they had the newspaper articles that they used to reference in the beginning. And I really want to know how Gideon from Legends of Tomorrow ends up in The Flash's use. Honestly, I'd love to know how Gideon is there instead of on the Wave Rider, but I don't think we'll ever see that. But they reference that Queen Consolidated, which that timeline's changed since then, because it became Palmer Tech and then Smoke Industries. But they said that Wayne Industries acquired Queen Consolidated. Or took over Queen Consolidated. So it kind of already cemented that, and they've already kind of cemented the fact that Green Lantern's in this timeline too. They just haven't actually shown him, because they had the air base and referenced, and then they had a dude with a jacket on next to Amanda Waller in a flashback clip with Stephen Amell, Oliver Queen. So I think that at this point, I'm really getting tired of them teasing Batman in both Supergirl as, the Dark Knight. My cousin worked with a vigilante once. He was, very dark and brooding, but he got the job done, kind of thing. I wish that they would just go ahead and show him at this point in Earth 1 and have Batman show up. And my vote for this is because since CW likes to recycle actors between their shows, I would love to see Jensen Ackles come over to Arrow as Bruce Wayne, because he could play that swaggered Bruce Wayne and kind of he could play that fighting Batman kind of thing. And I think that he would be kind of a logical choice, being that we have Ben Affleck as like the old Batman Bruce Wayne in the movies, and they're very similar builds. And it would be nice to kind of see maybe like the new 52 outfit on him, just as a thought. But I don't know. I think it would be cool to see Batman show up. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I really doubt it, because we got Superman for like 5 episodes of Supergirl. So I kind of miss him being back too. But I guess time will tell. Time will tell. So without further ado, I'm going to get going. And so until next time, geeks, get a hold of me. Hashtag What's Geeky to You. Get a hold of me on Facebook at Altered Geek. Or on the Twitters at Altered Geek or at SCP21. So until next time, I've been Stephen C. Phillips. Get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.
Hello, everyone. This is JD from the In Session Film Podcast. Each week, we review
the latest from Hollywood, California.
Well, yes, Brendan. We also
give top 3 lists.
Okay, yeah. Thanks again, Brendan. Additionally, you can hear us
talk other movie news, trailers, varying movie series, or other interesting film-related topics, and even rants and raves of the week.
On top of our main show, every Friday,
you can also hear our extra film podcasts.
You can listen to the In Session Film Podcast on
iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or at InSessionFilm.com. Listen to the In Session Film Podcast every Monday and Friday. Subscribe today and hear me verbally beat JD like a Cherokee drum.
No. That's not how this works, sir.